All right guys, on this week's video, we're gonna hear the story of a bow, my hunting bow. The bow that I've carried with me on adventures across this country, from some of the highest peaks in Idaho to the wide open cattle country and swamps of southern Florida. This bow has seen more adventure than most people. So stick around and I'll show you some of the places we've been.
Look at that.
That's a good one.
What do you think, Finn?
The bow began as a couple of billets that I got from a buddy of mine many years ago. And they were probably cut sometime in the mid-90s. I joined those billets using a method that I'd first seen described by Jim Babcock for use in fiberglass bows, and I just adapted it for self-bows. It's a very slick method that uses a tenon that slides into a wrapped fiberglass handle. But once the handle is done and the billets are joined, the rest of the bow building process is no different than any other self bow. But I knew right off the bat that this wasn't just any other self bow. The wood had a kind of resiliency that was uncommon even for osage, and the character made it one of a kind. Soon after finishing this bow, I carried it on its first adventure down into the mosquito-infested swamps of southern Georgia. After meeting up with a couple of knucklehead buddies, Matt and Vance, we all traipsed around the swamp for about 3 days before we found a group of hogs that was willing to let us get close enough. A short stalk and a lot of mosquito bites later, and this little bow had its first kill. Later on that fall, I'd be carrying it again, but this time in the western mountains in search of elk.
God. That patch of timber they're bedding in is about 80 yards square. They're right there. Just stepped out of that little patch of timber there. I think the only way to do it would be to go in right up the bottom of the draw first thing in the morning, because they're going to come back into that patch of timber. All right, that's the plan. I'm going to be right there in that patch of timber at daybreak.
Hunting with a stick bow takes patience and a lot of hours in the field, and I hunted for almost 3 weeks before I finally got a shot at a bull. Unfortunately, I didn't have the camera pointed in the right direction when he came in. Nevertheless, I got an arrow into him, and away we went.
this way.
Anytime I kill an animal, whether it be with a bow or a rifle or shotgun or whatever, I try to use as much of it as possible. Sinew is one of those things that most people throw away, but to a primitive bowyer, it's absolute gold. After the elk meat was processed and all put away in the freezer, I started work to use the bull's back sinew to add even more resiliency and cast to the little bow that had taken his life.
All right, guys, so this is the bow that I hunted with this year. It's an osage. It's right on the edge between being a recurve and a longbow. But I killed a bull with this year, and I took the sinew, the back sinew from that bull, and I backed this bow. And what that did was drew this thing into a little bit more of a reflex or back set, and it added probably 6 pounds to it. So we're gonna see how fast this thing's gonna shoot through this chronograph. Now remember, this is an all natural material bow. (177 feet per second). Now, I've built self bows that are unbacked that would shoot almost this fast. And for a sinew backed bow, this is, you can build a sinew backed, like a hornbelly bow that'll shoot way faster than this. But for a practical hunting bow, that's not too bad.
After shooting a few arrows through the chronograph, I picked up an arrow that I rarely use, and my little bow's story nearly came to an end. Dry firing a bow is a recipe for disaster, but luckily there was just one single small hairline splinter that was raised on the back, and a wrap of sinew around that spot is all it took to save it.
That is why you should always check the nocks on your arrows.
Although most of my practice is done within hunting ranges, and I've never killed a big game animal over 30 yards with a bow, I still like to shoot long distances, especially when people start to question the accuracy of these primitive weapons.
If you look way down there, 100 yards from me, I've got a mule deer target set up, and I've got 3 field tips in here. We're gonna see if we can't walk an arrow in here or into that target from this distance. Now, I wanna go ahead and mention that I've never shot this far with this bow and arrow combination. I've never really shot this far at all. And so I don't know how high above that target to hold. And so that's what I mean by walking it in. I'm just gonna have to pick out something above that target, let an arrow fly, and just see what happens, and then make adjustments from there. That'd be way higher than that. Last arrow. I think I might have hit it. So this was my 3rd and final arrow, and I actually got it in the kill zone. All right, so I had to move up to 80 yards because at 100 yards my holdover is so high that I'm up in the sky. And yesterday I had some clouds that were pretty much stagnant. They were just staying still or moving very slowly. And so I could use a piece of one of those clouds as a reference so that I could use that as my point of aim. But today's the sky's pretty clear. I don't have any clouds, so I don't have anything. I just, if I'm aiming, my tip's just kind of up there wandering around in the sky. And so I hope by moving up to 80, I can put my tip somewhere just on the horizon there. pick out a spot on the horizon, and hopefully that'll be high enough to drop the arrows into the target. So the first thing I got to do is find a spot to aim above that. So I think I've got something picked out. Up on the top of that hill. Well, there's one in it. I think I hit him in the neck. A little bit too far left. I think I just hit, maybe just over it. Oh, 2 out of 3. That ain't too bad at 80 yards. Let's go see where I hit. All right, so I had, my other one must have been just went through the top of the hay bale and hit the ground behind, but not in the kill zone, but for 80 yards with a self-made bow, wood bow, not too bad.
Sinew is amazing stuff, adding a tremendous amount of performance to a bow, but it does have a tendency to soak up moisture.
I've got my skins here. They've been soaking in water for a couple of hours. They're very much rehydrated, very pliable.
And so before the next adventure, I decided to go ahead and back it with snakeskin.
That's gonna lay on there really nice. We'll worry about smoothing everything out here in just a little bit.
And once sealed, protects the sinew against moisture, something that you absolutely need in the southern swamps.
All right, so we've got both limbs wrapped, and now we just gotta let this, leave it wrapped until those are dry. I'll give it a day or two. We'll unwrap it, and then we'll continue on. And you'll see that here in just a second.
There's just something about copperhead skins on the back of a snaky bow. No matter what you do, sometimes you just can't get away from the trolls. And shortly after I backed this bow with snakeskin, I posted a video on Instagram of me shooting this 3D target, and it was taken down as offensive. So of course, I had to make fun of the people that did that.
So a few days ago, I posted a video to Instagram that got flagged as sensitive. So it was a kill shot on this buck. I wanted to make things right and make a video about the entire hunt. Let's take a look. I've been watching this buck for a long time. I've got trail cams set up all around out here in the woods. And for some reason, he's got this weird thing going on with this antelope. I'm not sure what's going on there, but you know, whatever. I'm a wildlife biologist, so I know everything there is to know about animals, but this one has me stumped. You know, once I got this buck on the ground, it was like I was snapping photos for Insta like that, man. It was online within seconds. But you know, having people look at it and say, oh man, that's a great buck, it really doesn't mean anything to me. You know, I just wanted to show that experience. I wanted to show how much it meant to me. The antlers really don't mean that much to me, you know, but I'm not gonna shoot anything unless it's 150 7/8 inches.
All right, with the haters fully lampooned, we can move on to our next adventure. This time we're going to be carrying this little snaky bow through the coastal marshes in search of hogs.
So it's just after sunrise. Just got into an island where last night I was paddling out after dark and I could hear at least 2 groups of pigs right on the bank. They were just inside the marsh grass. I couldn't see them, but I could hear them in there rooting around, smacking, chewing on something. So I'm gonna try to slip in here and see if I can't find them.
This is one of the most demanding bow hunts that you can do. Thick rushes with needle-sharp points, deep mud, tidal creeks, mosquitoes, alligators, you name it, and this place has it. But it also has lots and lots of pigs.
Probably a 30-pounder. He is definitely not a big hog by any stretch, but he'll eat good. He's probably, I don't know, 30 pounds or so. I shot him. He was kind of quartered to me pretty hard, but a little pig like this, and that bow's pretty quick and heavy. But I shot him right through the shoulder blade, and it exited back here by his guts. So got both lungs on that one, and he wasn't alive for more than, I don't know, 15 seconds or so.
And it wasn't long before I had an arrow and a fat little hog that would fit perfect on the grill. Somewhere several years ago, I read a description of the cave paintings in France. The author described how the primitive cultures that lived there used the features of the cave to guide their paintings. A protruding rock became a mammoth's head, a crack became a river, and in this way the painting melded with the cave features, becoming one. The author described the result as a meeting place between what's given and what's created. And in my mind, a self-bow is much the same. Not going against the grain, but using the features of the stave to guide the creation. And I guess in some ways, hunting with these bows is the same. It's counterproductive to try to force things to happen. You just have to play the cards you're dealt and figure it out the best you can. And on our next adventure, we're back chasing elk with a sinew-backed bow that I'd killed a bull with the year before.
It's pretty early in the season, and so I don't think this morning I saw a couple of bulls hanging out together, which makes me think that they haven't started rutting yet. And so I'm not expecting to hear any bugles, and so what I've done is just climb up real high and just trying to figure out, get my bearings, just trying to figure out what the elk are doing.
After nearly 2 weeks of chasing elk around the mountains, I found myself standing in the exact same footprints where I'd shot the bull the year before. And by some miracle, shot a cow with the bow that was backed with the sinew from that bull.
What do you think about that?
That's one of the things that I love about traditional and primitive archery, is the depth of the story, the connection we have with the weapons that we make and with the animals that we hunt. I feel like it's impossible to develop that kind of a relationship with a weapon that's made out of nothing but synthetic materials.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I know I sure enjoyed the adventures that it took to make it. Don't forget, we are uploading a new bow hunting, archery, or family adventure video every Thursday. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, go on down there to do that. The cows are saying that you definitely need to subscribe. Like it, leave a comment. We'll see you next time.